On today's episode, we're going to talk about everything that you need to know to prepare for and plan for your very first Amtrak trip. Hello and welcome to the Great Adventurer channel. My name is Mark, aka The Great Adventurer, and on this channel we're going to talk about all things travel, from fantastic destinations and cool things to do, as well as how to get there, from planes and trains to cars and cruise ships. The journey is part of the travel experience, so let's enjoy getting from point A to point B. And then let's enjoy our destination once we're there too. Life is a great adventure. Come and join me. With everything that's happening in the airline industry, riding on Amtrak trains is becoming increasingly a more popular and feasible option for travel. Now, while Amtrak has some long-distance trains like the California Zephyr or the Empire Builder that run over the course of multiple days from start to finish, on this video we're going to be discussing more of the shorter trips that can be made within a day, where you would not typically be spending the night on the train. We'll get more into some of those other types of trains and train trips in future videos, but for your very first Amtrak trip, I would recommend planning a trip somewhere that you can go where you won't be spending the night on the train. Ideally, these trips will be less than 12 hours away, where you don't have to change trains to get from point A to point B. For example, let me start by telling you about my very first Amtrak ride. I live in North Carolina, and my whole reason for riding Amtrak was because I wanted to go out west and see some of our western states. But I didn't want to have to drive. I wanted to leave the driving to someone else so that I could look out the windows and enjoy the views. But as I thought about booking that type of a trip, I realized that I'd never ridden Amtrak before, and I needed an introduction to Amtrak trip. So I booked a long weekend trip from Raleigh, North Carolina to Washington, D.C., which is about a 6-hour train ride. I went up on a Saturday and I came back on a Tuesday. For this type of trip, I just got a coach seat, but I had a lot of questions. How do I get a ticket? Are there any deals or discounts? When is the best time to go? How do I get the best price? What am I allowed to bring on the train, and what is prohibited? What's included in my fare, and how much do check bags and carry-on bags cost? What time do I need to arrive at the train station? How do I know if my train is on time or delayed? If you're interested in taking your very first trip on Amtrak, and you've had any of these questions, you've come to the right place. Because in this video, we're going to cover all of those questions and more. Now, if you find the information in this video helpful, I would appreciate it if you would take a moment and hit the thumbs up button. This is my very first YouTube video for this channel, and it would help me to know that you liked the video and found it helpful. Please also feel free to leave any comments that you may have. What can I do better? What is something that you didn't know before watching this video? Your feedback will help me as I continue to make future videos. And if you want to see new videos on traveling, please consider subscribing to my channel. My goal is to provide helpful information in these videos as you prepare for your very first Amtrak train trip. And thank you in advance. Okay, let's dive in. The first thing we need to determine is where is the closest Amtrak station to where you live, where you can go, and what trains will get you there. For this, let's head to Amtrak.com website. And I'll put all of the helpful links in the description of this video. If you scroll down from the home page, you'll see a trip planning map. Click on the Start Planning button to get started. In the search box at the top, you can enter your city, state, or zip code. In my example, we'll use Austin, Texas as our starting point. When you select it, the map will readjust, showing your station in the center. Click on the white circle and select Start Here. Now that we've zoomed in on our starting point, let's see where we can go. Click the minus sign in the lower right to zoom out. You can also click and scroll, and I'm going to scroll down to find Fort Worth, Texas. At this stage, don't get too focused on the destination. The point is to find somewhere a few hours away where you can ride the train. We still need to research train times, length of trip, the return times to make sure that this destination is good for your first trip on Amtrak. When you've found a suitable destination, click on the white circle and select End Here. Now, click on Find Routes. It should show you your route options, and in my case, this is the Texas Eagle. That's the name of the train. Click Find Fares, and let's start by choosing our round trip right up here at the top. Enter the dates that you wish to travel. We'll talk more in a bit about finding the cheapest fares, but for now, pick 2 days that are about one day apart. If you want to bring others along, you can add those to the reservation here. I'm going solo, so I'll just leave this at 1 adult. Click Find Fares, which will take you to the page where you can see the times for your train and select which type of ticket you want to purchase. You can see here that this train is the Texas Eagle number 22. It departs Austin at 9:24 a.m. and arrives into Fort Worth at 1:51 p.m., and the trip length is 4 hours and 27 minutes. At this point, your train may not have good times for departures or arrivals. You don't want to leave at 2:30 in the morning or arrive at that time either. So, if this is you, you may want to look for another destination. Many stations may only have one train a day going in each direction. So if the northbound train comes through at an undesirable time, you may want to look at a southbound train. Just realize that when you come back on your return trip, you'll likely be arriving at that undesirable time. If your station doesn't have trains with times that are desirable, you may want to consider traveling to a larger station, somewhere like New York or Chicago or Washington, D.C., which have multiple trains a day departing on different routes. I once flew to Chicago and took a train down to St. Louis for the day and back. It was a long day, but I got to go up in the St. Louis Arch, which was my goal. If everything looks good on the times, the price for coach seats starts at $20, and a private room starts at $122. Depending on your train, you may have options for business class, first class, or other options. But for your first trip, let's just ride in coach. Let's select $20. Here we have two options for a value fare and a flex fare. The value option has a cancellation fee associated with it if you cancel before departure. But just for a few bucks more, you can get the flex ticket, which is fully refundable up to departure. I always choose this option. On the Texas Eagle, I have the option of choosing an upper or lower level seat, but you won't have this on many trains. I'm going to choose upper level and select to add this to my cart. Now let's look at the return trip. Once again, we'll be riding on the Texas Eagle, this time on train 21, which departs Fort Worth at 2:02 p.m. and arrives back in Austin 4.5 hours later at 6:35 p.m. And just like the outbound leg, if the times are not desirable, you may want to look for a new destination. We'll start again with a $20 option for a coach seat, choose a flex ticket on the upper level, and add this to our cart. Before I continue on, I wanted to talk for a minute about business class versus coach seating. Some trains will have business class seats, which are somewhat more expensive than a coach seat. Is it worth it for the upgrade? In my opinion and experience, I would say usually not. Here's why. The coach seats and the business class seats are essentially the same. With business class seats, you get an assigned seat that is yours. Coach is generally open seating. The other perk of business class is free sodas. But if a soda costs you $2.50, you have to drink a whole lot of soda to make it worth the price difference for the business class seat. That's just my humble opinion. You can choose your own option. Okay, continuing on, now we see the trip summary. On the left, we have the option of adding a bicycle or a pet, and on the right-hand side, the question about our luggage gets answered. We are allowed to bring one personal item, which is up to 25 pounds. And here you can see the dimensions, 14 inches by 11 inches. You can also bring on board up to 2 carry-on items up to 50 pounds each. And you can see the dimensions here of 28 inches by 22 inches. If your stations offer baggage service, you can also check up to 2 more bags that are up to 50 pounds each. And there is a link here where you can see if your stations have the option to check baggage. So this is some good news and one of the big advantages of taking Amtrak. You don't have to pay for luggage. Whether it's carry-on or checked bags, it's included. There are luggage racks in each car of the train, as well as an overhead bin space that is larger than the airlines, as well as space under the seat in front of you. But for just an overnight trip, you shouldn't need a whole lot of luggage. Let's click continue and fill out our personal information. I'm going to assume that since this is your very first Amtrak trip, you're not going to have an Amtrak Guest Rewards account. But if you do, you can sign in here. I would recommend creating an Amtrak Guest Rewards account, but it's totally up to you. From here, you continue on to enter your payment information. One thing they will ask you is if you want to protect your trip with insurance. I always say no because I've already paid a couple of extra dollars to get a fully refundable ticket. Once you've entered your credit card information and agreed to the terms and conditions, you will have just purchased a newly purchased train ticket. Congratulations. At this point, I would also recommend that you download the Amtrak app onto your phone from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Once you sign in with your account, you should see your ticket there, and that will be helpful once you are on board the train to show your ticket to the conductor for them to scan. If you don't have the app, you will still be able to access your ticket from your email. Now, before we continue on to the travel experience, let's talk about discounts, promotions, and getting the best fare. Going back to the Amtrak homepage, click the deals link at the top of the page in the middle to see child discounts, senior discounts, student discounts, military discounts, group travel discounts, disability travel discounts, and pretty much if you're breathing, you can probably find a discount that applies to you. There may also be special discounts available for your area or region, so use Google to search for those. Additionally, if you're trying to find the cheapest days to ride the train, there is a website called railforless.us. Here you can choose round trip or one-way travel, put in your origin and destination stations, choose what type of accommodations you want, and give it a date range within 30 days, and it will search and give you a price graph timeline of when the cheapest fares are. Below it will give you a list of dates sorted by price. You can sort by route and train. I have found this tool to be very helpful in finding the best days for travel for the lowest fares. I hope it helps you as well. This will be especially helpful when it comes to booking sleeper cars for multiple day train trips in the future, which can be very expensive depending upon your accommodations. Next, we'll move on to what the experience will be like for your day of travel. The first thing you should look into is getting to the train station and parking. Each station will be a little bit different, but many stations will have free or cheap parking. Of course, you can take a taxi or ride-sharing service, or even have a friend drop you off, depending upon where you live. Once you've got a plan for getting to the station, how soon before your train is scheduled to depart should you arrive at the train station? As a part of answering that question, we need to first talk about delays. Amtrak is notorious for trains running late, and unless your station is the origin station of that train, you'll want to monitor that train's status before heading out to the station. In other words, if you're departing on the Carolinian train that starts in Charlotte and ends in New York City, and you're getting on in Charlotte, that train is likely to depart on time. But as it makes its way to New York City, other train traffic, weather, or other factors may cause it to fall behind schedule. Now, with that said, there are also planned stops along the way that can be shortened, so the train may make up time along the way as well. So going back to the Amtrak homepage, you can click here for train status and enter the origin and destination to see the status of your train. Another site that I've found helpful for looking at train status is railrat.net. Again, I've put a link to all of these sites in the description. But if you click on trains at the top, then scroll down to find the Texas Eagle and click on train number 22, you can see that that train departed San Antonio at 6:48 a.m. and got into Austin 11 minutes late at 9:17 a.m. And it arrived into Fort Worth at 14:20 or 2:20 p.m., which is 47 minutes late. So I like this site railrat.net, which allows me to see a history of how the train is doing that day. Okay, so unlike airports, there is no TSA security checkpoint to go through at the train station. This is another big benefit to riding Amtrak trains, so you don't need to get to the station 2 hours beforehand. My recommendation is that if you have luggage to check, I would plan to arrive at the station 1 hour beforehand, just to give enough time to check your luggage. Remember that up to 2 bags of checked luggage is free, and if your stations offer baggage service, I would highly recommend checking your bags if you need to bring more than a carry-on and a personal item. You will usually be reunited with your luggage at your destination a lot quicker than when you fly with the airlines. If you have just a personal item and or a carry-on luggage, you can plan to arrive at the train station about 30 to 45 minutes prior to your departure time. Depending on your train station, there probably won't be a lot of food options available, if any. It may be vending machines only, so take that into consideration. Eat something before you get to the train station, and consider bringing some snacks and even beverages on board the train with you. It's perfectly fine, just in case. Many trains have a cafe car for coach passengers where you can purchase some food and beverages. But this would be more like a sandwich, chips, sodas, that type of thing. Other trains may have vending machines. Again, I would recommend bringing at least some snacks and beverages just in case. You never know when the card reader may not be working. When you arrive at the station, you should see a waiting area in most cases. In most cases, you will also see a ticket counter where you can check your bags, speak with a ticket agent if you need to, but there are some stations that are unstaffed. You should have your ticket with you on your phone, either in an email confirmation that was sent to you or in the app, so you don't need to see the ticket agent for a paper ticket. But if it's not busy, I will usually go and ask the ticket agent about the boarding procedure. Where and when will my train board? When I did my trip from Raleigh to DC, getting on the train in Raleigh was easy, but coming home from DC was another story. There are tons of trains and doors and platforms and tracks, so I had to ask. Even then, it was still confusing. So pay close attention and listen for any boarding announcements. Now let's talk about the boarding process. Most likely you'll be standing in the vicinity of the train when it arrives. You can put your phone away at this point. You won't need to show your ticket until after you're on board, so go ahead and put that away. When the train arrives and comes to a stop, the conductors will exit and allow exiting passengers to get off the train first. Once exiting passengers are off, the conductors will usually ask for groups of 2 or more passengers traveling together. This is to allow them to sit together in any open seats. Once groups are on board, they will begin loading passengers traveling alone. I always double check with the conductor and I verify, is this train 22 going to Fort Worth? Just to be sure. In busy stations or where there may be multiple trains, this is important to ensure you don't get on the wrong train. Some conductors may give you an assigned seat, but usually in coach, it's open seating. If you have brought a large carry-on bag on board, I suggest that you store it in one of the luggage holds near the end of your car. Overhead bin space for your smaller carry-on items is usually plentiful. As you look for your seat, pay attention to any signs above the seats, which may say something like reserved for passengers with disabilities or reserved for parties of 3 or more. If you sit in these seats and you aren't qualified, the conductor will likely ask you to move. Find your seat and get comfy. The coach seating on Amtrak is usually 2 seats on each side of the train with an aisle in the middle. So you can either get a window seat or an aisle seat, but no middle seats. Again, this is another benefit of riding the train. You'll also notice in these seats that they are wider than most airplane seats, almost like first-class airplane seats, and there is plenty of leg room. The seats recline much more than airplane seats do, and you also get a footrest. Who knew traveling on the train could be so enjoyable? Okay, the train will begin rolling towards its next stop, and the conductors will come through and scan your tickets. Have your phone ready with the barcode, either from your app or from the confirmation email that you were sent. When the conductor has scanned your ticket, they will place a tag above your seat with a code for your destination. This is now your seat. Don't move to another seat unless you notify the conductor. Once this item is out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride on Amtrak. Many trains, though not all, have free Wi-Fi. So if you brought your laptop, tablet, or want to connect your phone, you can try to do that. The speed varies depending upon where you are and how many people are on the Wi-Fi. Quite frankly, in my experience, you're better off just using your own cellular service. And I would not rely upon always having a cellular signal because trains often travel through cellular dead zones. So, download your movies, books, or games beforehand. In coach seating, there are generally 2 120-volt plugs for each row of seats by the window. You can use one of these plugs to keep your phone charged while traveling, and your seatmate can do the same. I would also recommend carrying a power brick with you to charge your phone independently of what the train has to offer. I've had issues with loose plugs or power that can barely charge your phone. Plus, if you're seated in an aisle seat and you have to put your cord across the person sitting in the window seat, that can be a little bit awkward. Now, if you know them, that's probably not a problem. But if you don't, well, just bring a power brick because you aren't even guaranteed that you'll be sitting beside the person that you're traveling with. Now, While on board, you may need to leave your seat for some reason, either to get food or to use the restroom or just to stretch your legs. I would recommend generally trying not to leave your seat while the train is stopped, unless you're getting off the train for a few minutes for a fresh air break, because this is when new passengers will be boarding, and if your seat is unoccupied, someone may inadvertently sit in it. When you do leave your seat, I would recommend that you take any valuables with you. You may want to leave a small bag or other item either in your seat or on the floor in front of your seat, just so that others who might be boarding the train would know that it's occupied. Now, let's talk about some of those reasons why you might be leaving your seat. We'll start with the restroom. Usually, each coach car will have at least 2 restrooms per car. There will generally be a smaller one, which is similar to what you'd find on an airplane, and then there is a larger one, which is large enough for someone with a wheelchair. One thing that is important when using the restroom on the train is that you make sure that the door is locked properly. Some cars have a light to tell you when the door is locked, but I've had someone open the door on me more than once, so ensure the door is locked to prevent potentially embarrassing situations. Also, if for some reason the restrooms are occupied or maybe they're not clean, you can always go to another car and use the restrooms there. Another reason why you may leave your seat is to visit the dining car. To visit the dining car, ask the conductor which direction you need to travel to reach the dining car. You may want to do this when they're scanning your ticket, just so that you're prepared when the urge strikes. Depending upon your train, you may have just vending machines on the train, and this again is one of the reasons that I mentioned earlier about bringing your own snacks and beverages. Usually the machines are kept stocked, but the selection is somewhat limited, and it could be that the machines are down. Longer distance trains will usually have a cafe car which is operated by an Amtrak employee. They have breakfast, lunch, and dinner options along with snacks. Some of the items include sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit sandwich or a blueberry muffin for breakfast. For lunch or dinner, your options include a turkey and cheddar sandwich, a ham, Swiss, and honey mustard sandwich, an Angus cheeseburger, a vegan barbecue burger, or a classic grilled cheese, just to name a few. Salads are also available, as are non-alcoholic juices, soda, coffee, tea, hot chocolate, milk, water, and a variety of beer, wine, and other adult beverages. You can see the menu on the Amtrak website, and there is a link to the dining options down in the description. Once you purchase your food, you may eat at one of the tables in the dining car, or you may return to your seat and eat it there. Be careful carrying your food through the train, as sometimes it can be quite rocky. Another thing to be aware of is that the cafe car does close at various times during the day for an employee break and restocking. So if you go to the cafe car and it's closed, they will make an announcement when it reopens. It is also closed overnight, and they will make an announcement letting you know when they are going to close and reopen it. You may wonder about the quality of food on board Amtrak trains, and I personally have found it to be very good, better than I expected. Your mileage may vary, or you may have a more discerning palate than I do. Another dining option which will be available to you on long-distance trains that have sleeper cars is traditional dining. This is where you would pay a fixed price for a meal, and you would go to the dining car where the sleeper car passengers eat. Click the link for the dining options and look for the traditional dining on the left-hand side. Here you can see if traditional dining is available on your train and look for the menus. Once on board the train, if this is an option you're interested in, let the conductor know that you're interested in traditional dining and inquire about that availability, pricing, and times. I will tell you, just so that you can be aware, that they do seat you at tables in groups of 4 and serve you a meal. If you do this, take advantage of the opportunity to talk to your fellow travelers. Find out where they're from and where they're headed. How many times have they ridden the train, and what was their favorite train ride or memory from riding the train? What is the thing they're most looking forward to at their destination? There are all sorts of things you can learn while having a nice meal and conversation while looking out the window and enjoying the views. As a side note, traditional dining is included in the price of your ticket if you ride in a sleeper car in the future, and I hope you will. Now, let's suppose you've got some food from the cafe car and took it back to your seat to eat. You're now done and you need to throw away your trash. There are trash receptacles in each car at the opposite end from the restrooms. If you need help in locating them the first time, like I did, don't hesitate to ask the conductor. The next reason you may leave your seat during your trip is to get off the train for a few minutes during a fresh air break. As I said previously, I would recommend taking all valuables with you and also leaving a small item in your seat either on the floor or in front of your seat so that any newly boarding passengers will know that your seat is occupied. When you leave the train, they generally recommend that you don't leave the platform or side of the train. You will need to be ready at a moment's notice when they call the all aboard. Yes, they will leave you if you're not on the train, and you will have to buy a new ticket to your destination. If you're on a long-distance train, that might also have an observation car. This is a car with large windows and seats facing outward, where you can just sit and watch the scenery go by. If you're unsure if your train has one of these, ask the conductor. The final reason for you to leave your seat is when you have arrived at your destination. A short while before you arrive at your destination, the conductor should come through and let you know that your stop is next. When this happens, ask the conductor which direction the doors will be opening. Not all doors open, and you need to know which direction to travel to exit the train. Go ahead and begin to gather your things at this point. Get any bags down from the overhead. If you have any luggage from one of the luggage holds, gather that as well. Once you stop at your destination, there will be a short while for passengers to get off before new passengers start getting on. And there you have it. Everything that you need to know to prepare for your very first Amtrak train trip. So what did you think? Please leave me a comment with any questions that you may have or suggestions. Did I forget to address something? Let me know that too. Again, my name is Mark, aka The Great Adventurer, and I would like to thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will be making more helpful videos like this one in the future, and knowing people are out there watching helps me create more videos for you. Also, when you've taken that first Amtrak trip, come back to this video and leave me another comment, letting me know how your experience was. Well, so long for now, and let's make life a great adventure.